Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we're going to have a quick look at how English words are derived from Latin ones and how best to work out the meaning of the English word and to work out how to get the correct derivation from the Latin one. So, we've been looking at verbs so far in this course, and so that's a good place to start. English words very often derive either from the present stem of a Latin verb or the supine stem. So to give you an example of the former, the Latin verb navigo means I sail. And from that stem, navig, we get the English word navigable. Able to be navigated means you can sail through a particular area. But with that same verb navigo, if you were to go to the fourth principal part, navigo, navigare, navigavi, navigatum, and you get to the supine, navigatum, if you chop off the um ending and replace it with the English letters I-O-N, you get the English word navigation. Now that works again and again, and as we go through this course and learn different types of Latin verbs, you'll see it happen more and more. But just with the verbs we have already learnt, see how we can take a verb such as voco, which means I call, and if you go to the fourth principal part, vocatum, chop off the and replace it with ion, you get an English word vocation. And a vocation is a calling from the Latin verb voco, I call. So sometimes the English word is coming from the present stem of the verb, and sometimes it's coming from the supine stem. And sometimes, of course, you get one English word that comes from the present stem and another from the supine stem. Navigo is a good example of that. We get navigable from the present stem, navigar, and we get navigation from the supine stem, navigatum. Sometimes the derivation seems a bit obscure, but for example, the word edifice, an edifice is a great big sort of structure, and that's coming from the Latin verb edifico, which means I build. Now the spelling obviously has changed a bit. The A of the Latin verb has dropped out, but you're left with edifice, clearly coming from edifico. Okay, so as promised, we are going to do a little bit of revision on all the verbs you have learnt so far in this chapter, and I'm going to do this just in the form of a vocab test, good old-fashioned vocab test. Check you've been learning the verbs that we've covered so far, and if you haven't, this is a good time to go back and relearn them. Make sure that you can, if I give you the English verb, you can tell me what it means in Latin, and if I give you the Latin verb, you've got to be able to tell me what it is in English. Okay, so we'll begin, nice simple route. I'll give you a Latin verb, you try and give me the English one, okay? And I'll leave a little pause to give you a chance. Okay, so I'm reading these from the book, if you wonder why I keep looking down. Okay, so, edifico means I build. Amor, nice easy one, means I love. Cantor means I sing. Expecto means I wait for. Festino means I hurry. There's a great little Latin phrase, festina lente, which means hurry slowly, and is I suppose the equivalent of our more haste, less speed, or less haste, more speed. I can never remember which way around that goes. Laboro is I work. We get the English word laborious. Navigo is I sail. We get navigable and navigation. Opongno, remember that funny NGN sound you get? Wherever a G and an N are together in Latin, you have to assume that it was NGN. So, opongno means I attack, and that is attack in the sense of attacking a town or a city, not just having a fight with someone. Paro means I prepare. And I'm just going to stop there to tell you a little bit more about derivations. Very often what happens when we get an English word from Latin is that the Latin verb is very clear, but a prefix has been put in front of it. Now, we'll talk about prefixes more later on when we get on to Latin prepositions. But just for now, if you add a prefix such as pre or inter or pro or post, those are English prefixes, and they come from Latin prepositions, as we'll see later. If you stick those prefixes in front of a Latin verb, you very often get an English word which is familiar, and you can see the link with the Latin verb you've learnt. So, paro means I prepare. Put pre in front of paro, and you get prepare. And our little trick of going to the supine, paro, parare, paravi, paratum, change um to ion, add the prefix pre, and you get preparation, preparation, preparation. Clearly from the Latin verb, paro, with a prefix pre in front of it. Okay, back to our vocab test. Next verb is pongno, which means I fight. Rogo, which means I ask. We get interrogate from that, and again, you've got a prefix inter, which is a Latin preposition meaning between. Interrogate is when you ask someone things. Spector means I watch. Obviously we get the words spectator, spectacle, spectacles. Supero means I overcome in the sense of conquer. And finally, woko means I call. And again, not much coming from the present stem of that, but if you go to the supine, you get wocatum, chop off add ion, and we get vocation. Okay, so lots of Latin verbs to remember. Also, don't forget our little conjunctions. Et, meaning and, sed, meaning but, and then the adverb non, meaning not. Remember, non placed in front of a verb makes that verb negative. Okay, so that vocab test is nice and easy if I go from Latin to English. It's a little bit harder if I go the other way. And I ask you, for example, what is the Latin for I overcome? Okay, so it's harder because you're not guessing, you're really dragging out of your memory bank the Latin for I overcome, which is supero. Okay, so I'll give you some going that way. Latin for I call is voco. The Latin for I hurry is festino. The Latin for I watch is specto. The Latin for I build, aedifico. The Latin for I attack is oppugno. The Latin for I fight is pugno. The Latin for I sail, navigo. Okay, so a little bit harder going that way. And of course, just to really sort of finish off this revision session, rather than me just saying what's the Latin for I fight, how would it be if I said what is the Latin for they will fight? And you're then having to revise your future tense endings, bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. So they will fight, pugnabunt. They were attacking would be oppugnabant. Okay, so that way you're remembering the Latin word plus the tense plus the correct ending for that tense. A little bit harder. So if we wanted they have sailed, you're thinking Latin for to sail is navigo. They have sailed is perfect tense, so you've got to whip into the perfect tense. You've got to get the right ending for they, and you end up with navigaverunt. Okay, so lots and lots to do on all of this. Plenty to remember, plenty to revise. If in doubt, write it down, write it down, write it down again until you know it inside out. And I hope you've got that all sorted. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want notifications, new lessons every Friday, and we'll see you next time.